السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. اليوم في هذه المحاضرة هنتكلم عن connective tissue, the second type of tissue in the body. We have finished in the previous lectures the epithelial tissue. The objectives for this lecture is to identify the general structure of the connective tissue, to identify the different types of cells in the connective tissue, and to identify the different fibers found in the connective tissue. So the contents, we will talk briefly about the connective tissue, its structure and more components. We will talk about the cells of the connective tissue and the fibers found within the connective tissue or forming the connective tissue. Okay. Connective tissue originates from embryonic mesenchyme from the mesoderm, the middle layer of the embryonic disc. It's composed of cells and extracellular matrix, and the major constituent of the connective tissue is the extracellular matrix or اختصارها ECM. على عكس الابيثيليال tissue والmuscular and nervous tissue, connective tissue مكون أكتر شيء من extracellular matrix أكتر من cells على عكس the other tissues. In the epithelium لاحظنا we have mainly cells. Also in the coming lectures in the muscular tissue we will see that the muscular tissue is composed mainly of cells and also the nerve tissue, but in the connective tissue the opposite. The extracellular matrix is the predominant or the main component. The extracellular matrix consists of protein fibers, which are collagens and elastic fibers, and also ground substance. So the extracellular matrix is composed of these two. As we see in this image, this example schematic graph for connective tissue is composed of extracellular matrix mainly, which is composed of ground substance, these regions, the white pale areas, the ground substance, the protein fibers, which are the elastic fibers, very thin, the collagen fibers are thicker, the reticular fibers also thinner than the collagen fibers, and there are few cells scattered: macrophage, mesenchymal cell, adipocytes, and fibroblasts. Ground substance is complex of anionic and hydrophilic proteoglycans, glycosaminoglycans, and multi-adhesive glycoproteins. Example, the laminin and fibronectin. This is an example for multi-adhesive glycoproteins. Okay, so ground substance is a complex of all these anionic, hydrophilic, proteoglycans, glycosaminoglycans, or GAGs, abbreviation, GAGs. And the ground substance, its function is to provide a medium for the exchange of nutrients and metabolic waste between the cells and the blood supply. This is the function of ground substance. Let's move to talk about the cells of the connective tissue. And in this we will talk about fibroblasts, macrophages, plasma cells, and mast cells, and also the leukocytes, other leukocytes other than macrophages, mast cells, and we have other leukocytes like neutrophils and eosinophils, and also adipocytes. These are the cells that are found in the connective tissue. We will start Firstly, with fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are the most common cells in connective tissue, and they typically present in connective tissue proper. هو هنتكلم في المحاضرة الجاية عن التايبس أو أنواع الكونكتيف تيشو. النوع الرئيسي connective tissue هو connective tissue proper. Fibroblasts are typically found in this type of tissue. The fibroblasts originate locally from mesenchymal cells, and this is the shape of the fibroblast. This is the fibroblast, how it appears in multiple cytoplasmic processes. They are permanent residents of connective tissue. قاعدة هي تنشأ, originate and reside in the connective tissue. They are permanent residents of connective tissue. بتكون قاعدة في الconnective tissue ده, ما بتمشي لمكان تاني ويحصل لها migration لأي مكان تاني. The function of fibroblasts, they produce and maintain most of the extracellular matrix components, and they synthesize and secrete collagen and elastin, which are the fibers found in the extracellular matrix. And they also secrete the components of the ground substance. So it secretes, produce and maintain most of the extracellular matrix components, the fibers, collagen and elastin, and the ground substance. The fibroblast, the active cell is called fibroblast. The inactive cell, the fibrocyte, is the quiescent inactive fibroblast. Let's look for this image on the right. You'll see this is fibroblast with large nucleus, euchromatic nucleus, and the fibrocyte is smaller with darkly stained heterochromatic nucleus. And also this fibrocyte, the smaller cells. The larger cells with cytoplasmic processes is the fibroblast. And the fibroblast is the active cell. The active fibroblast has abundant, irregularly branched cytoplasm. It's has large, ovoid, euchromatic nucleus. The euchromatic nucleus تظهر pale الستين اللي stain. The euchromatic nucleus with a prominent nucleolus, and the cytoplasm of the active fibroblast has much rough endoplasmic reticulum and well-developed Golgi apparatus. This is again the previous image. We have abundant irregular cytoplasm, and this is the oval euchromatic nucleus with prominent nucleolus, as we see here also, ovoid nucleus with prominent nucleolus. Regarding the rough endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus, they are best seen in the electron microscope, not in light. The fibrocyte is smaller than the active fibroblast, spindle shape, with fewer processes. Fibrocyte has fewer processes زي ما شفنا في الصورة اللي فاتت, much less rough endoplasmic reticulum, and it contains darker and more heterochromatic nucleus. The fibroblasts are the targets of proteins called growth factors, and there are types of fibroblasts called myofibroblasts, and they are fibroblasts with well-developed contractile activity because they have rich amount of actin, similar to that found in smooth muscle cells. فيها كمية كبيرة من الأكتين الموجود في السموث muscle، وبالتالي عندها contractile activity contracts, and because of that it's called myo. Myo refers to muscle, fibroblast. So because of that it's called myofibroblast. And myofibroblast or the contractile fibroblasts, they are involved in wound healing، واللي هي دي process هتعرفوها بعدين قدام في الباثولوجي، how the wound healing occurs and how the myofibroblasts are involved. And they are involved because they contract and they make the ends of the wound near and decrease the opening of the wound. So it has a major role in wound healing. Later on you will see in pathology. The other type, second type of cells found in connective tissue are the adipocytes or fat cells that are found in many connective tissue of many organs. You find adipocytes. طبعا other than the adipose tissue, the adipocytes can be found within the connective tissue. Like this, these are, so this is the nucleus and this is fat tail areas. This is the nucleus of adipocyte. These are adipocytes scattered within the connective tissue. And these fibers, collagen fiber, elastic reticular. The adipocytes are specialized for the storage of lipid as neutral fats, or also less commonly production of heat, and the large deposit of fat in the cells of the adipose connective tissue. They serve to بتعمل as a cushion and insulator, insulate the skin and other organs. In this image, which is a picture taken by electron microscopy, transmission electron microscope, this is a macrophage, all this shape. Here we find this middle structure in N nucleus. All of this is nucleus. This is the nucleus. N stands for nucleus, and this is a nucleolus. We find L later. These dots, dark dots, are lysosomes. And the arrows, these arrows indicate phagocytic vacuoles. This and this and this, they are phagocytic vacuoles near the cytoplasmic processes. So this is macrophage, how it appears under transmission electron microscope. The monocytes cross the epithelial wall of the nucleus to penetrate connective tissue. And in the connective tissue they undergo more differentiation and maturation to become macrophages. زي ما قلنا المونوسايتس أصلا هي جاية من precursor cells, bone marrow precursor cells. Monocytes circulate in the blood. They reach the connective tissue. How? They cross by crossing the epithelial wall of the venule. Penetrate connective tissue. In the connective tissue, it will undergo further differentiation and maturation to become macrophages by increasing in the size, acquiring phagocytic vacuoles and phagocytic characteristics. Monocyte and macrophage are the same cell at different stages of maturation. The monocytes are found in the blood, and the macrophage is found in the connective tissue with more maturation and differentiation, more matured and highly matured than monocytes and highly specialized. The macrophages are distributed throughout the body and are present in most organs. Along with other monocyte-derived cells, the macrophages comprise or consist a family of cells called the mononuclear phagocyte system. Mononuclear phagocyte system, which is part of the immune system. The macrophages play an important role in the early stages of repair after tissue damage. In conditions of inflammation, the macrophages accumulate in the connective tissue. There are cells called macrophage-like cells, given different names in different organs. For example, macrophage-like cells called Kupffer cells in the liver, microglial cells in the central nervous system, Langerhans cells in the skin, osteoclasts in bone tissue. Okay, these are macrophage-like cells in the other organs, Kupffer in liver, microglia in central nervous system, Langerhans cells in the skin, osteoclasts in bone tissue. All macrophage-like cells are derived from monocytes, so they are monocyte-derived. So the macrophage-like cells, in addition to the macrophages المعروف الموجودة في الكونكتيف تيشو generally مع بعض بيعملوا السيستم اسمه mononuclear phagocyte system. And all macrophage-like cells are long-living cells, may survive for months. Okay. The macrophages, its function in addition to debris removal, in addition to that, these cells are highly important for the uptake, processing, presentation of antigens for the lymphocyte activation. Uptake, processing, presentation of the antigens for lymphocyte activation. We finished the macrophages. Now we are moving to the next type of cell, is mast cells. Mast cells originate from the progenitor cells in the bone marrow. Okay. And the progenitor cells circulate in the blood, cross the wall of the venules and capillaries, penetrate the connective tissues, and where they differentiate in the same way of macrophages. The mast cells, they are oval or irregularly shaped tissue cells between 7 and 20 micrometer in diameter, and their cytoplasm is filled with basophilic secretory granules. The nucleus is centrally situated and often obscured by abundant secretory granules. Let's see in this image. M stands for mast cells. These are the mast cells. They are found near the blood vessels, PV for blood vessels. نلاحظ الماست cells oval أو irregular in shape. هنا oval ظاهر هنا oval عديل. Cytoplasm is filled زي ما شايفين secretory basophilic granules. basophilic تظهر blue color. هنا البلو color دي عبارة عن granules, secretory granules بتاعت الماست cells, which are basophilic and it appears as dark blue stain. And we have central nucleus. Okay, sometimes can be obscured like here and here by the secretory granules. The mast cells function in the localized release of many bioactive substances with roles in the local inflammatory response, innate immunity, and tissue repair. Some important molecules that can be released from the mast cells in conditions of inflammation: heparin, histamine, cytokines, phospholipids, chemotactic factors, and serine proteases. These are bioactive substances that are released and mediate certain processes in inflammation. Okay. ما نعرفش في تفاصيل المواد دي لأن هي it will be discussed later in pathology إن شاء الله, but you can look for it in the reference. Muscles release of certain chemical mediators. They release certain chemical mediators. The release of these chemical mediators is stored in muscles also promote the allergic reactions. الالرجيك reactions دي بيسموها في الباثولوجي immediate hypersensitivity reactions. بس في الميديسن وفي الباثولوجي بيقول على immediate hypersensitivity reactions اللي هي حساسية, يعني نوع من أنواع الحساسية, التحسس allergic reactions towards foreign bodies, microorganisms, chemical irritants, whatever of these substances foreign to the body and harmful, the body will result in allergic response to these allergic reactions. These are mediated by mast cells. So we can move to the second type of cells, or sorry, after fibroblasts we talked about adipocytes, we talked about macrophages, mast cells, and this is plasma cells, number 5. The plasma cells are B lymphocyte derived. هنتكلم عنهم كلهم لما نجي للليكشر بتاعت البلاد. هنتكلم عن الماكروفيج, عن البلازما cells, عن الماكروفيج in details. So don't worry about any information here, just this to put a light on the cells that can be found in the connective tissue. The plasma cells are B lymphocyte derived antibody producing cells, and there are few plasma cells in most connective tissues. Their average lifespan is 10 to 20 days, only 10 to 20 days in the connective tissue. The plasma cells, they are large ovoid cells. They have basophilic cytoplasm and it appears as dark blue due to their richness in rough endoplasmic reticulum. Next to the nucleus, you will find the Golgi apparatus and the centrioles occupy a region that can appear pale in routine histologic preparations. Let's see it in this image. As we see here, this is the plasma cells, T for plasma cells. زي ما ملاحظين عندنا basophilic cytoplasm due to rough endoplasmic reticulum. Nucleus. Next to the nucleus بدنا نلقاها شنو برضو؟ هي large and ovoid cell. نلقى nucleus is round or spherical. Okay, and we will describe more. Next slide. The nucleus of the plasma cell is generally spherical and eccentrically placed, طرفية. نلقى cell oval in shape. تمام. لكن النيوكليوس spherical. تمام، كروية وبتكون قاعدة على الطرف eccentrically placed. طيب النيوكليوس شكلها كيف؟ has the appearance of a clock face زي الساعة. نلقى في حتات darker بيناتها في حتات pale بالنيوكليوس. الداركر دي هيتيروكروماتين. نلقى في heterochromatin interspersed with lighter eochromatin. Eochromatin is lighter and heterochromatin is darker، وبالتبادل بنلقى حتة دارك حتة pale حتة دارك حتة pale. دي شكل الساعة. إما نلقى خلية في التشو عندها clock face nucleus، هي oval in shape، السيتوبلازم بتاعها بيزوفيليك، هي منو؟ بلازما سيل. كده خلصنا البلازما cells. نمشي ل other leukocytes other than the mast and the plasma cells and macrophages. Beside all of these macrophages and plasma cells, the connective tissue normally contains other leukocytes derived from cells circulating in the blood. These leukocytes, they leave blood, okay, by migrating between the endothelial cells lining the venules to enter connective tissue by a process called diapedesis، اللي هي تنحشر ما بين الخلايا بتاعت الاندوثيليال سيلز عشان تطلع من الفينيول وتخش في الكونكتيف تيشو. العملية دي اسمها diapedesis، محكومة ب certain chemical mediators ب certain steps and processes كلها هنناقشها later on لما نجي للبلد أو لقدام في الباثولوجي هتلقوها تاني إن شاء الله. فالدي diabetes process هي increases greatly، بتزيد عملية الديابيتس اللي هي greatly during inflammation. and the inflammation هو ذاته شنو؟ inflammation ده عبارة عن vascular، تمام، بس البطل بيقولوا vascular and cellular defensive response، عملية دفاعية في الجسم فيها يعني تفاعلات خلوية وتفاعلات في الفيزل ذاته. to what? this response to injury، جرحت foreign substance، تعرضت لباثوجينيك بكتيريا، تعرضت لirritating chemical substance، كلها دي بتأدي للإنفلاميشن والجسم بيستجيب للإنفلاميشن. دي أول حاجة. في الإنفلاميشن بيحصل الدايابيتيسز اللي هي الليوكوسايتس اللي هي النيوتروفيلز، بيحصل لها crossing in between passes in between the endothelial cells of the venules. The process is called diapedesis, and most leukocytes in the connective tissue function for a few hours or days in connective tissue and then die by process of apoptosis. برضو الأبوبتوزيس هو نوع من أنواع programmed cell death، هيناقشوا عليكم في الباثولوجي. most leukocytes function for a few hours days in the connective tissue and then die. الكلام ده بيحصل مع الانفلاميشن بس، معناه هما they are not permanent residents. neutrophils eosinophils they are not permanent residents in the connective tissue. We finished now the cells of the connective tissue. We are moving to other part of the lecture talking about the fibers. We finished fibroblasts, adipocytes, macrophages, plasma cells, mast cells, and other leukocytes, adipocytes, all of them. Now we are moving to talk about the fibers of the connective tissue. There are three main fibers: collagen, reticular, and elastic fibers. Collagen and reticular الاثنين مكونين من بروتين كولاجين بروتين. هنا الإلاستيك فايبر مختلف، بيتكون من بروتين اسمه إلاستين. نتكلم أول حاجة عن الكولاجين. هو أكثر بروتين متوفر في الجسم. The most abundant protein in the human body, representing about 30% of its dry weight. 30% من ال dry weight of the human body is collagen. وهو major product of fibroblasts. الفايبروبلاست هي the resident cells in the connective tissue. Let's see in the collagen مكون من 28 نوع، كلهم family of 28 collagens exist in vertebrates. هنا هنناقش جزء منها أو الأنواع المهمة اللي بتهمنا at this level. مثلا عندنا in the image on the right side H&E stain section of connective tissue. هنشوف C letter C دي عبارة عن شنو؟ مش شايفين this acidophilic bundles of what? type 1 collagen fibrils. sorry, bundles of type 1 collagen fibrils. and the arrows الأسهم دي بتشير لشنو؟ للفايبروبلاست. تمام. الفايبروبلاست في الستين دي ما بتكون واضحة شديد، ما تقدر تفرقها من الفايبروسايت إلا بالسايز of the nucleus، لكن في other stains ممكن. طيب يبقى هنا سي نشوف دي ضمنه للكولاجين، ده كولاجين، this collagen, these cells are fibroblasts. Collagen constitutes a family of proteins and various fibers, sheets and networks made of collagens are all extremely strong and resistant to normal shearing and tearing forces. The collagen is a key element of all the connective tissues as well as the epithelial basement membrane اللي اتكلمنا عنها في المحاضرات اللي فاتت عن basement membranes. قلنا إنه فيها basal lamina و reticular lamina. في basal lamina في كولاجين تتذكروا. تمام. and the external laminae of the muscle اللي هنتكلم عنها في المحاضرة الجاية. the external laminae of the muscle and the nerve cells, nerve tissue هلقى فيها شنو؟ collagen. it's the key element of all connective tissues. برضو epithelial basement membranes و external laminae of muscle and nerve cells. الكولاجين ده بروتين مهم جدا في الجسم. طيب أنواع الكولاجين فيه أنواع بيقسموها على حسب according to the structures formed by their interacting subunits، حسب التركيب اللي بيتكون منه. يعني الكولاجين بروتينز ممكن تكون أشكال عدة. في بعضهم مثلا يكون لنا فيبريلر كولاجين ألياف. في نوع تاني بيعمل شيت طبق كده زي ستات شيت فورمينج كولاجينز. وفي النوع الثالث أو الكاتيجوري الثالث بيعمل لنا لينكينج كولاجينز، وهم دي مهمتهم الربط بين حاجتين أنكر كولاجينز. تمام. هنناقش كل واحد منهم. نبدأ بالأول فيبريلر كولاجينز اللي هم دي notably collagens type 1, 2 and 3. تمام. they have subunits 1 and 2 and 3. دي اللي بيعملوا الفيبريلر كولاجين اللي هو الليفي أو الألياف. subunits aggregate to form large fibrils. These large fibrils they are clearly visible in the electron of the light microscope. تمام. and collagen type 1 is the most abundant and widely distributed collagen. يعني type 1 ده كتير وموجود ومتوفر. forms large eosinophilic bundles بيعمل لنا large eosinophilic bundles اللي هي حزم بتتصدق باللون الأحمر و usually called collagen fibers in the connective tissue. And these fibrillar collagens موجودة وين؟ They densely fill the connective tissue. They form structures زي tendons, organ capsules, dermis. يبقى أنواع الفبريلار كولاجين سواء الليفية type 1 و 2 فليدال يعملوا كولاجين ليفي فيبريلار كولاجينز. بتكون موجودة في التندونز أربطة العضلات organ capsules في الكبسولز بتاعت الأورجنز والديرمس of the skin نلقى فيهم fibrillar collagens. The second type of collagens is the sheet forming collagen. بتعمل لنا sheet طبقة layer يعني sheet forming collagen such as type 4 collagen وده لقانا في basal lamina of the basement membrane in the epithelium. فعلا احنا تكلمنا عن انه هو موجود في basal lamina of the basement membrane وموجود هناك لأنه بيعمل sheet forming and it has subunits produced by epithelial cells بتنتج الابيثيليال cells ملاحظين هنا بينتج للفايبروبلاست by epithelial cells and are the major structural proteins of external laminae زي ما قلنا external laminae of muscles and nerves and the basal lamina in all epithelia. تمام يبقى sheet forming collagens موجود في external lamina والbasal lamina of the basement membrane external lamina of muscles and nerves and sheet forming. The third type is linking اللي بيربط بين حاجتين and they are short collagens قصيرة مهمتها بسيطة تربط بين حاجة وحاجة. They are short collagens that link what شنو link the fibrillar collagens to one another. fibrillar collagen جبال اللي قلنا موجود في الديرمس في التندونز organ capsules يربط بيناتهم between the fibrillar collagens and to one another linking them forming larger fibers. So the fibrillar collagens are linked to one another by linking collagens and also the linking collagens they link fibrillar collagens to other components of the extracellular matrix. Other components of the extracellular matrix يعني يربط الفبريلار collagens مع بعض ومع المكونات الأخرى الموجودة في ال extracellular matrix. The linking type 7 collagen مثلا type 7 collagen ده مثال للنوع للرابط. type 7 collagen binds type 4 collagen اللي موجود في البيزل لامينا binds type 4 collagen and anchors the basal lamina to the underlying reticular lamina of the basement membrane. تمام يبقى type 7 collagen بيربط لنا type 4 collagen اللي هو أصلا كله موجود في البيزل لامينا بيربطوا مع منه مع reticular lamina. So it binds the type 4 collagen and anchors the basal lamina to the reticular lamina of the basement membrane. يعني معناه في البيزمنت membrane عندنا type 4 الموجود في البيزل لامينا type 7 اللي بيربط type 4 collagen مع الريتيكولار لامينا. طيب احنا خلصنا كده كولاجين نشوف second type fibers in the connective tissue which is the reticular fibers. It's found in delicate connective tissue of many organs, and the reticular fibers consist mainly of collagen type 3. لكن هي أرفع من other types من collagen fibers, فهي consists mainly of collagen type 3 reticular fibers. This collagen, type 3 collagen, forms an extensive network, reticulum, of extremely thin, heavily glycosylated fibers. diameter بتاعها 0.5 to 2 micrometer. فهي thinner fibers than the previous fibers. The reticular fibers are seldom visible in H&E stain hematoxylin using preparations, but are characteristically stained black by impregnation with silver salts, and they are termed gyrophilic. gyrophilic لأنها يعني silver lava، بنعمل لها ستين بالسيلفر سولز بتقوم بتظهر لنا بلاك زي ما في الصورة على اليمين. شايف تظهر أسلاك زي الأسلاك الرفيعة السوداء دي reticular fibers. Delicate black reticular fibers are seen in these silver stained sections of the adrenal cortex. دي adrenal cortex عملنا فيها section وصبغوها بسيلفر salts. ف reticular fibers شالت الصبغة السوداء دي بقت سوداء وظهرت سوداء، لكن في ال H&E stains ما بتظهر بالوضوح ده نهائي، يعني rarely visible in H&E. The reticular fibers produced by fibroblasts طبعا collagen collagen type 3 occur in the reticular lamina of basement membranes. تمام، يبقى معناها الريتيكولار لامينا فيها تايب 3 صح؟ تايب 3 كولاجين، والبيل قلنا تايب 7 كولاجين بيربط تايب 4 الموجود في البيز اللامينا مع الريتيكولار لامينا مع تايب 3 الموجود في الريتيكولار لامينا of the basement membrane. كده وضحت؟ البيز اللامينا فيها تايب 4، الريتيكولار لامينا فيها تايب 3 اللي هي الريتيكولار فايبرز، بيربط بيناتهم لينكينج كولاجين هو تايب 7. So the reticular fibers produced by fibroblasts occur in the reticular lamina of the basement membrane and also surrounds the adipocytes, the smooth muscle, nerve fibers, and the smooth blood vessels. يعني بنلقاه برضه حوالين الخلايا adipocytes, smooth muscle fibers and nerve fibers and the small blood vessels. بنلقى حوالينا في reticular fibers. طيب reticular fibers برضه بنلقى reticular delicate reticular networks بتعمل لي delicate reticular networks that serve as a supportive stroma. الدعامة supportive stroma for what? For the parenchymal secretory cells and the rich microvasculature or liver and endocrine glands. يعني endocrine glands والliver عندها parenchyma. السupportive stroma للparenchyma دي منه الريتيكولار فايبرز دي اللي هي بتعمل reticular delicate network or network. Also abundant reticular fibers also characterize the stroma of the hematopoietic tissue. موجودة في hematopoietic tissue bone marrow and some lymphoid organs في الspleen و lymph nodes نلقى فيها reticular fibers بتعمل الستروما. يعني abundant reticular fibers form the stroma of these tissues. البون مارو الهيموبيتيك تيشو موجود في البون مارو والليمفويد اورجان سبلين نلقى فيها كمية كبيرة من reticular fibers as a stroma. What do they do? where they support these reticular fibers. They support rapidly changing populations of proliferating cells, phagocytic cells. Now we move to the third type of fibers, the elastic fibers. The elastic fibers, they are thinner than the collagen عموما. هي thinner. It's thinner than type 1 collagen fibers, where they form sparse networks interspersed with collagen bundles. يعني هي بتعمل networks تتخللها ألياف كولاجين في معظم الأورجانز, in many organs, particularly those subject to much bending or stretching. الأورجانز اللي بتتعرض لانبعاجات وتمدد بصورة كبيرة نلقى فيها الإلاستيك فايبرز. فالإلاستيك فايبرز عندها physical properties similar to those of rubber, زي الستيك، إنها بتتمطى تتمدد وترجع لوضعها الطبيعي تاني, allowing tissues to be stretched or distended and return to their original shape. طيب, الإلاستيك fibers موجودة in the wall of large blood vessels, especially the arteries. نلقى elastin also occurs. الإلاستين هو بيكون الإلاستيك fibers also occurs as fenestrated sheets, عبارة عن sheets فيها fenestrated sheet called elastic lamella. زي ما شايفين هنا الإلاستيك lamella في الصورة اللي على اليمين, wavy, this wavy appearance. شايفين the Chinese stained section in the wall of artery, wall of aorta. This is an Chinese stained section in the wall of aorta. نشوف الشيتس نلقى الويفي ستراكشر دي المتموجة دي هي الإلاستيك لاميلا. الواحدة اسمها إلاستيك لاميلا, الجمع لاميلي. طيب, the elastic fibers and lamellae are a composite of what؟ يعني مكونة من شنو؟ Fibrillar microfibrils embedded in a large mass of cross-linked elastin. elastin مشبك مع بعض, تيجي فوق له يعني في نصه fibrillar microfibrils مع بعض يعملوا elastic fibers. cross-linked elastin plus fibrillar microfibrils. both components, يعني باختصار الإلاستيك فايبرز مكونة من فبريلين وإلاستين. both these components, الفبريلين بيكون بيعمل مايكروفيبرلز, المايكروفيبرلز دي بيحصل لها embedding تمام في منو؟ في large mass of elastin مع بعض يعمل elastic fiber. both components they are secreted from fibrillar and elastin are secreted from fibroblasts and also the smooth muscle cells in the vascular walls. زي ما شفنا في wall of the aorta في الصورة اللي فاتت في elastic fibers وعاملة elastic lamella. فالcomponents بتاعت elastic fibers بيحصل لها secretion من الفايبروبلاست ومن ال smooth muscle cells in the vascular walls. تمام, من الفايبروبلاست في connective tissue ومن ال smooth muscle cells in the vascular walls. تمام. Elastic fibers, the properties of the elastic fibers and the lamellae result from what? The structure of the elastin subunits and the unique crosslinks holding them together. طيب, the elastic fibers and lamellae are not strongly acidophilic. يعني ممكن نعمل Chinese stain لكن ما هتظهر لنا واضحة. They are not strongly acidophilic. They stain poorly with H. يعني ما بتكون واضحة شديد, ما بتكون واضحة في ال HIV sections الإلاستيك فايبرز. اللي بتكون لنا واضحة ديت يعني كولاجين. بس. طيب نعمل لها شنو؟ قال they are stained more darkly than collagen in other stains. نستخدم stains تانية عشان نظهرها اللي هي الأورسين and aldehyde fuchsin. أورسين and aldehyde fuchsin. تمام. في الصورة دي على الشمال اللي هو A نلاحظ دي ده section stained بهيماتوكسلين زايد أورسين stain. بنلقى الإلاستيك فايبرز are darkly stained. البلاك وايرز دي الأسلاك الظاهرة سوداء دي هي دي الإلاستيك فايبرز. ده سيكشن ماخوذ من ميزنتري. تمام. هتلقوه قاعد في التكست بوك. فنلاحظ الإلاستيك فايبرز darkly stained elastic fibers. تمام. as black wires دي أسلاك سوداء رفيعة كما قلنا هي thinner than collagen. They are seen very clear with this stain. In the right side دي بنلقى برضو dark stain دي برضو هذه elastic fibers. والpale stain دي collagen acidophilic collagen. الستين دي اسمها aldehyde fuchsin stain اللي ذكرناها في السلايد اللي فاتت. ده نوع تاني من الستين اسمه aldehyde fuchsin. ظهر لنا الإلاستيك فايبرز بصورة واضحة اللي هي البلاك دي البلاك ما يعني تلاحظ إنها intermittent كده متقطعة interrupted وأفضل wave appearance. دي darkly stained elastic fibers تلقاها قاعدة among between or among seen among acidophilic collagen bundles like this thicker bundles here. These are thicker bundles of collagen acidophilic. تمام. But in HN stain not clear like this. They are poor these scans. So we have finished. We have come to the end of our lecture, and let's summarize what we have talked about briefly. إنه قلنا الكونكتيف تيشو مكون من cells واكستراسيلولار ماتريكس، وإنه الاكستراسيلولار ماتريكس هي المكون الرئيسي major constituent. إنه الاكستراسيلولار ماتريكس مكونة من بروتين فايبرز ومن ground substance. اتكلمنا عن الفايبروبلاست قلنا إنها هي ريزيدنت سيل موجودة في الكونكتيف تيشو. أما الفايبروسايت هي inactive فايبروبلاست. في طبعا الفايبروبلاست والفايبروسايت موجودة مع خلايا أخرى في other cells Macrophages, Mast cells, plasma cells. وبنلاحظ إنه الفايبرز عند الكونكتيف تيشو اتكلمنا عنها إن هي collagen, reticular, elastic. اتكلمنا عن الأنواع أو الكاتيجوريز المختلفة من الكولاجين الفيبريلر الشيت فورمينج اللينكينج الرابط. اتكلمنا برضو عن الريتيكولار فايبرز وقلنا إنها بتعمل delicate networks وبتعمل supportive stroma لمعظم الأورجنز الليمفويد أورجنز والهيموبويتيك spleen lymph nodes liver. اتكلمنا أخيرا عن الإلاستيك فايبرز وقلنا بتعمل لنا إلاستيك لاميلي صفائح مرنة in the wall of arteries في جدار big arteries or large arteries mainly بتكون more visible and prominent. So this is the end of the lecture for today. See you next lecture in the types of the connective tissue. Inshallah. Thank you. Goodbye.